Hi everyone, I'm Marcy, and if pizza is one of your favorite foods, you're gonna love today's recipe because I'm making a New Mexico bar pizza. It's got hatch green chili, sweet Italian sausage, and all kinds of other yumminess. This is another viewer recipe that I think is gonna be a keeper. This recipe was sent in by my friend Dennis Quintana from Albuquerque. He says he makes about 6 different kinds of pizza, but he always falls back on this particular one that's baked in a 13 by 18 inch baking pan. Now, he also says that sometimes he makes his own crust, which I'll put his recipe in the description box beneath this video, but he also buys it, and he recommends buying ready-made dough from either Trader Joe's, which he says is fantastic, or from Dion's, which I didn't even know was an option. And I live near a Dion's restaurant. So I just went through the drive-thru and I picked up this dough ready to go for just $4. So talk about a game changer. Now for the sauce, you're gonna need 1 28-ounce can of San Marzano's peeled tomatoes, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon sugar, 6 fresh basil leaves that have been chopped finely, and 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Now for the toppings, I've got 1.5 cups each of shredded mozzarella and shredded provolone. You'll need 1 cup of hatch green chilies that have been roasted, peeled, and chopped, and you can go with whatever heat preference that you like. You'll need 1.5 cups of sweet Italian sausage cooked. Now, when you go to cook this, you want to break it up into sort of big pieces. So in other words, you're not going to break it up finely like you would say if you were baking ground beef. Here you want those bigger pieces, and if you don't find just the regular ground sweet Italian sausage, it'll be about 4 sausage links. Then you'll need some red onion that's sliced thinly. This is optional, but if you like sun-dried tomatoes, which I do, you can use up to 1 cup of them. And then finally, to sort of increase the wow factor, we're gonna use some sesame seeds on the crust, and then we're gonna drizzle a little hot honey at the end onto the crust as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm first going to drizzle just a little olive oil onto my baking sheet and spread it around just to lightly coat it. And by the way, Dennis says if you have a darker pan, as in much darker than mine, it's actually better because your crust will get a crispy bottom and edges while still being chewy in the middle, which I believe is what makes it a bar pizza. Turn the dough out onto the pan and gently stretch it until it reaches the edges and corners. You want the crust to have a slight overhang, but this is as good as it's going to get for me. When you've got the dough in place, cover with plastic wrap. I'm going to use the same one it came with, which makes it convenient. And now I'll let it rest for 30 minutes until the dough has puffed slightly. Meantime, I can make the sauce. For this, use a medium bowl to mix together the tomatoes, the 4 tablespoons of olive oil, which I'll measure out real quick, the salt, and the sugar. Dennis says it's best to do this by hand, so I'm going to use a fork to sort of mash up the tomatoes. And I just realized I was forgetting the chopped basil. Make sure that goes in too, and continue mixing. The tomatoes should be crushed roughly, creating a textured or semi-smooth sauce. Now preheat the oven to 500 degrees and make sure your rack is positioned on the bottom third of the oven. Once the dough has rested for 30 minutes, uncover it and spoon on the sauce. Spread it around so that it covers the entire crust with only the edges peeking out. Then sprinkle a generous layer of both the mozzarella and provolone cheese. I'll follow it with the pre-cooked Italian sausage. Then my favorite ingredient, the Hatch green chili. It goes so great on pizza. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I don't think I'm going to use the full cup of Hatch green chili because I think this is more than enough. That's a first for me. Now I'll scatter some of the red onion throughout as well. And I'm also going to add just a few of these sun-dried tomatoes. Now we're going to get a little fancy and I'm going to brush some olive oil along the edges of the crust, and then I'm going to sprinkle some sesame seeds, and the oil's going to help the sesame seeds to stick. Now, this would have been better if I had a little more overhang on my pizza crust, but I think it's still going to work out great. So now I add the sesame seeds. And now into the oven it goes to bake for 12 to 15 minutes, which is just enough time for me to clean up and get ready to eat. Wow. This looks so beautiful. The cheese is bubbly and the crust is golden, which is how we like it. But now I'm gonna let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes before we dig in. Here we go. Ooh, the cheese pool. Gotta love that. Now, Dennis recommends heating up some honey in the microwave and drizzling that over the crust because he's fancy like that. He's kind of a foodie, but I think it's going to be good either way. Let me taste it like this first. Oh, that is so good. Now I'm going to drizzle some honey like he says. Just put it on the crust here. as if it needs to get any better than it already is. Oh my goodness. It is even better. This might be one of the best pizzas ever. I love the combination of the Italian sausage and green chili. That's a given, but the crust is so good. And then the sauce, there's just a freshness to it. I've always just bought my pizza sauce in a jar, but after seeing how easy that was, I think I'll make it like this all the time. Let me stop eating for a second. Just to say thank you so much to Dennis Quintana for sending in this recipe. I am going to be sending you a hopefully non-sticky, Marcy-inspired Chili Snob t-shirt in the mail for letting me use this recipe. And I hope all of you give it a try because it is fantastic. It'll be perfect for the Super Bowl. Even for Valentine's, you can make your pizza in the shape of a heart. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, I'm gonna enjoy this. Thanks so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I also invite you to follow me at Marcy Inspired on Instagram and Facebook. Until next time, blessings from my kitchen to yours.